Chief Kick-A-Bitch of the Slap-A-Hoe Nation, Charlie and the Muscle Cars. Yes. I'm excited for this. Every time we get a new Chief Kick-A-Bitch story, everybody's happy. But where is it? There it is. All right. Before getting to the muscle car story, I need to clarify a couple of things. Oh, and by the way, you get one of these, good sir. Thank you very much for the donation.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
And I'll throw this up here just for fun. The first thing is that we never heard of anal ease, and I doubt whether it even existed back then. I'm fairly certain that it didn't, now that I think of it, because society had not yet deteriorated to the point where it would have been profitable or acceptable to manufacture and advertise such a product.
Astroglide actually came around in the 70s.
I just found out it's a thing when Blake talked about it. We just called it Annalise Anal Ease because of the first 4 letters in her name and the sound of the final syllable. Once one kid said it, it caught on. We were 15-year-old boys expressing contempt and disdain. The second is a typo I made. Like Paul Newman in The Sting, Charlie swiped his finger against his own nose, not Miss Quim's. All right.
Okay.
On July 9th, 1976, Charlie and I bought a 1962 Chevy Bel Air Biscayne at an auction. Oh, that's a beautiful car. He was a fan of the 1960s music featuring muscle cars, and we both loved the Beach Boys.
Mm.
We loved the music of the 60s as well as the music of the 70s, our teen years.
So did I.
He had to have that 409 for starters. That's the music I actually listened to as a kid. I mean, I liked the 80s music, but I listened to the oldies from the time I was like 9, 10 years old. We picked it up for $200 and sank another $500 or so into it. The engine was tight and had an excellent compression because it had been rebuilt within the last 5 years. It needed a new radiator, front-end alignment, new tires, and the body looked like shit. But after pulling the dents and going through a gallon and a half of Bondo, it went in for a $49.99 paint job.
Can you believe that?
Getting our car painted for $50.
$50 fucking dollars.
God damn.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, our government has fucked our currency 6 ways from Sunday. Thanks, Nixon, and thank you, Rockefellers and Doohickeys and J.P. Morgans. You all a bunch of cocksucking faggots, and I hope you rot. By August, we had it ready for the Lime Rock track in the hamlet of Lakeview in Connecticut. This was the plan, but the only confidence we had in our auto racing skills was the confidence that neither of us had any.
If you're driving in a straight line, if it's a drag race, it's one thing.
Yeah. The fun for Charlie was in fixing it up and cruising her around for a month-long test drive. We sold it in early September. We got around $3,000 for it from a guy in our comparative religion class, Rick the Dick, who was into drag racing. He won a couple races on legal tracks, but could not resist taking it down to Long Wharf for one of the weekly illegal race nights. And one Sunday night, we had to go watch to see how our baby did. She smoked the competition because all of the knuckleheads there fancied themselves gearheads, but none knew how to tune a 4-bell carburetor or when a problem was not with the carburetor, whereas Charlie had the knack. When that series of races was over, we had seen what we had came to see.
Wasn't he the mechanic, Charlie?
Following day was a school day, and it was already getting late. Things had already gone on for long enough for the cops to have received complaints, we thought. Since neither of one of us wanted our names to be in the paper connected with anything as stupid and disreputable as a drag race for our parents and neighbors to read, we burned rubber out of there. Rick had won some guy's pink slip, but he wouldn't pay up, so Rick called it a night at the same time we were leaving. We almost stayed to see how a classmate from 1st through 8th grade did as flagman in the up-and-coming races, but it was already late, and we didn't want to risk losing the late curfews our parents allowed because we were still altar boys.
Of course you were.
Yeah. Next day was Monday, September 27th, 1976. Charlie stopped by to have breakfast before we left together for school. It was sliced kielbasa and fresh Kaiser rolls. Kielbasa was from a local place that made its own from the leanest meat with just enough fat to give it flavor. My mother baked it, sliced and topped with apricot marmalade. The rolls had poppy seeds on the top crust and were from Wolf's, a local bakery, still warm from the oven.
God damn it.
I'm getting hungry, man. As many kids as my parents had, they fed us with the best quality food. As we were chewing on our third and final sandwich before leaving, my father said there was an item we might be interested in the paper. He said that one of our classmates from elementary school was arrested and dropped the local section of the paper in front of us. That was the first we knew about what happened after we left. We just kept on chewing and kept quiet other than to ask who and for what, even though we knew.
Yep.
We had to ask because to not ask would have been suspicious. We took the paper with us for me to read aloud in Charlie's van as he drove us to class. Sure enough, the paper said that Joseph Lawrence was arrested for being the flag man. By leaving early, we avoided trouble beyond losing a later curfew privilege. 5 minutes and 2 races after we left, a catastrophe visited the event.
Oh, no.
4 teenagers in a car coming off I-95 were killed.
Oh.
A 5th survived. The racers swerved in time to avoid hitting them, but some asshole spectator chasing after them for a better view of the action slammed into the rear of their vehicle. He was so focused on the race that he missed the big picture.
Oh, no.
Like I said, an asshole. Everyone involved, 2 race car drivers, a speeding spectator, and our friend the flagman were charged with homicide or as accessories.
Wow.
Whoa. A lot of spectators were arrested. Ultimately, none of the arrested spectators were prosecuted because all had risked their lives to pull the driver from the wreckage, thus saving his life, and some had to be taken to the hospital to be treated for burns.
Whoa.
That disaster led to another temporary crackdown on street racing on that road, but they were still going on there today. Wow.
Wow.
The following year, we went to one auction where a 1932 Ford Coupe was offered.
Ooh.
Little Deuce Coupe. It was a well-advertised event, and there were several interested bidders, so competition was intense. As the bids climbed beyond all reason, I gave Charlie a poke in the ribs to snap him out of it. That was when he awakened to the fact that he was bidding emotionally and not rationally.
Yeah.
After he dropped out, there was a rush for the metaphorical exits. The guy who got stuck had a rather sick look on his face when the hammer fell. He had gotten swept up by his own emotions. Over the years, he started to collect cars mentioned in 60s songs. He had a Jaguar XKE, a couple 1960s Corvettes, including a couple of late 60s Stingrays.
God damn, that's the
Early
nice
60s Thunderbird, GTO, 61 Impala, Chevelle SS 396, 1949 Oldsmobile 88, one of each of the 3 versions of the 1950 Nash Rambler, 64 Mustang.
Wow. God damn, that's a lot of cars.
64 Dodge 330 Superstock, a couple different 409s and 413s, and many others. He did manage to find another 1932 Ford Model 18, but could not bring himself to alter it by porting, relieving, stroking, and boring it. He was never interested in a Model A Lincoln because the car in Hot Rod Lincoln by Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen did not exist. The Model A was not an 8-cylinder, it was a 12-cylinder.
Ooh.
He was also into vintage motorcycles and had a small collection involving a few models of Indian Scout and cheap bikes. Those are some of the first bikes ever made,
Those
actually.
things are astronomically expensive.
Oh, yeah.
now.
Like Indian motorcycles started showing up in the late 1800s.
I mean, just the cars he had, today, that's like $350,000.
That's a museum.
Yeah. That's a lot of money for them.
Yeah. I mean, the Henry Ford doesn't have a collection of cars that fucking nice. Along with half a dozen vintage Harleys. He also owned a few others seen in movies like McQueen's 1956 Triumph and The Great Escape. Hell yeah. Right after he accepted that his condition was terminal, he sold all of his assets, including the motor vehicle collection, to buy a life insurance policy, so as to not leave a taxable estate and prevent a will exchange by his estranged son. A will challenge by his estranged son.
Okay.
In 2004, just before my 45th birthday, Charlie visited for 6 weeks. On the day of, he handed me the keys to the 1964 GTO that was delivered by carrier the day before. He spent a year restoring it with all original parts. We took a photo of me in it to send to my aunt the next time she answered one of her letters. She was Richie's mother, so he eventually saw it, but never connected the destruction of his GTO with me, even though I practically slapped him across the face with it. In 2006, he bought a 1962 Dodge Dart with a 413 Max Wedge Mopar engine. He had found a few before, but he wanted one with a body in perfect condition. It took him another 4 years to get it into original condition.
Wow.
He was busy with his business, but he tracked down a lot never used original parts through people that he met at auto shows and did most of the work with his own hands. As with the GTO, the only non-original parts are the new front seats with headrests to prevent whiplash and a 4-point restraint system for driver and front passenger and 3 points for the rear. He flew out to hang with me for 6 weeks from early February to late March in 2009. The day before my 50th birthday, he took delivery of a car under a tarp that he shipped by carrier. The following morning, he handed me the keys.
Wow.
In 2009, he took his vacation to coincide with my wife's 35th birthday. As he did twice before, he took delivery of another car from a carrier and handed the keys to my wife. This time it was a 1954 Nash Rambler wagon with a newly rebuilt engine and transmission along with new leather seats with headrests and three-point restraints.
Wow.
All the mothers at school and women in our neck of the woods oohed and ahed when they first saw it. Only women can describe a car as being cute.
Yeah.
She's not into material possessions, but she loves that car and accepts praise for it as praise for Charlie. She's put less than 10,000 miles on it.
All right.
That's beautiful. Sir Keith tried to refuse it on the grounds that he was being too generous, so he told her why she had to keep it. In 1990, he needed a larger, more modern building to replace the garage he bought and was unable to obtain a loan because the company that owned the business was located in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, of course they were.
Yep. To change that, he would have would have been to let his cheating whore of a wife know he owned it and his house.
Nice.
The real value of the business when he bought it was in the customer list and the land the building sat on, but the garage itself was crumbling and too small for the mechanics he needed to hire and the expansion he planned. The town and surrounding area were growing, and he was strategically located. He wanted to build a 10-bay garage with 3 grease pits, 3 hydraulic jacks, and machines for engine rebuilds to accommodate present size and future growth. He also needed a slab for vehicle parking to prevent leaking fluids from polluting groundwater and other environmental protection measures.
Yeah.
Local politicians had to be greased, etc. On top of all of his hustle money, he needed another $800,000. I reminded him of all the books, Tiffany lamps, and other crap we still had from Yale, but even after selling his half, he was still short $360,000. I made up the difference with a no-interest loan on a handshake. He finished paying me back 3 years later, and that was as far as I was concerned. One memorable thing from that trip was that he spent a month helping me teach her how to drive. We had her out in an empty mall parking lot early one Sunday morning at around 7 a.m. She couldn't damage anything, but she was still a mess out of fear that she would kill pigeons. Charlie took his wallet out, extracted 10 $100 bills, slapped them on the dashboard, and said, "If you could kill one of those pigeons, you can have $1,000.
Nice.
She loosened up, and teaching her to drive was a snap after that. It's a sweet and sad memory that makes me miss him all the more. It said that it takes 1 month for every year of a marriage to get over the death of a spouse. If it works like that for close friends, I have about 3.5 years to go. We love those cars, and we'll leave them to his grandson. We drive them to take Charlie back and forth to school so they don't sit idle. They're all mechanical with no computers, so I don't need a mechanic shop for anything but compressing shocks should we need new ones, aligning the front end and balancing new tires. Charlie taught me how to tune a 4-barrel carburetor along with everything else that someone can do at home. The thing we love about them most of all is who gave them to us. I think about him every time I start their engines."
Yeah, you got to write this guy a book, man.
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing, man.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the Meat Gazer box.